We are terrified of being seen, yet we are dying to be known. We shrink ourselves, bite our tongue, dilute our truth just to make others feel comfortable. And in the process, we slowly suffocate our own spirit. Perhaps right now there's something that lives within you that wants to be expressed, but you're unsure on how it will be received. Maybe it's a bold idea, a hidden passion, a dream that you've been carrying around, but you lock it away because the thought of being misunderstood, judged, or rejected is simply too paralyzing. We crave deep, true intimacy and connection, yet we build our lives and our relationships on a watered-down version of ourselves. We trade our authentic voice for a false sense of safety, choosing to blend in rather than risk standing out. If you've ever felt absolute exhaustion of playing a character in your own life just to keep the peace, you are certainly not alone. And today in this video, we're going to explore the psychological, spiritual, and even historical reasons why we are wired to keep ourselves small and how we can finally break free from the cage of mediocrity and complacency once and for all. And if you're vibing with this message, be sure to subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and let's dive in. All right, so we got a good one today. I'm really excited about this transmission as it's something that I know I can relate to profoundly in my own life, and I'm sure that you will be able to relate as well. And, right now, there are so many of us that are desiring to break free from these boxes and cages we've kept ourselves locked in. There is a soul, a spirit within us that is just on fire, ready to share and express and be itself fully. Yet there is the part of us, the ego, that wants to keep us in our comfort zone, that wants to keep us playing small in all of these different ways. And so today I want to share the core reason on why all of this is even happening in the first place. Because once we know the why, then we can begin to break free. And really, this comes down to this core human desire that we all share. And it's the same desire that runs through our biology, our genetics, and that is to belong and to be accepted. Even in the earliest days of humanity, isolation from tribe, from the people around us, meant literal death. And so we are wired to scan our environment and adapt to it so that the tribe doesn't kick us out and we don't get outcasted. And therefore, we subconsciously and unconsciously trade our authenticity for the safety of the group. And this is really at the core of why all of this exists, of why we diminish ourselves and our light. But when we go deeper, we find that there is these surface level fears, right? And essentially these anxieties that keep us walking in this straight and narrow path, this straight line. One of those fears could be the fear of the unknown. It could be, well, who will I be if I stop pretending? It could be the fear of failure and the vulnerability of failing at something that you actually care about. It could be the fear of success. It could be the fear of ridicule and judgment from others. These are all rational fears that come up within us that are created by our ego in order to keep us safe and continuing to walk that one straight path. Yet, below the surface, below all of this, really lies this deep ancestral programming. And the deepest of them all is the fear of death. Now, we all carry collective trauma because we are all one being at the end of the day, fragmented as these individuated, isolated parts. Yet, we are one collective and we share one collective mind, and all of what is embedded within our genetics and DNA is carried through the centuries. And we carry this subconscious trauma of our ancestors. Now, if we look back throughout history, what have we seen historically? We have seen witch hunts and how women and men who understood nature or healing or anything from the metaphysical realm or were trying to share a message of love or light, they were killed for it. We look at the martyred leaders, throughout history, the leaders, the revolutionaries, the truth tellers, all of them who spoke up and went against the system were assassinated or exiled. Maybe not all of them, but a majority of them. And so we inherit this subconscious trauma that lives within our nervous system, and this belief that if I speak my truth, if I stand out, I become a target. And so, right now, with all this energy, this fire that is wanting to be expressed, all of this passion, our visions, our dreams that we have not taken action on because of this belief, of this trauma, well, it is essentially killing us from the inside out. And we are just living this mediocre, complacent existence. But what if we can transcend this trauma, this wounding, these beliefs, and begin to step into our authentic soul expression and potential? I'm going to go deeper here and break this down, and some of the things that I've experienced along the way. Whereas many years ago, there was that timid part of me, and it even still shows up from time to time, of if I share this, what are people going to think? What are people going to say? But as I've alchemized this, it has felt incredibly liberating and freeing to my soul. And to paint this picture a little bit deeper, I want to read a specific gene key. Now, if you know anything about the gene keys, it's okay. You don't need to. Then, in short, they're essentially a system, an incredible system of wisdom teachings. It's a map of your soul that brings together these 64 archetypes within the I Ching and your personal astrology to show you sort of your blueprint and roadmap in your life, moving through the shadows into your gifts. And today I want to read some passages from Gene Key 8, which is the shadow of mediocrity and the gift of style. And whether you have this in your profile or not, it does not matter, because we all share all 64 archetypes regardless. So I'm sure you're going to be able to relate to some of the things that I'm about to share. But to even look at the psychological, the spiritual, and the historical reasons on why we play small, this gene key houses it all. So I'm going to just read a few things here, and perhaps even as I read, and even before I read, just take a deep breath and exhale. Again, breathe in and release. If you feel called, you can keep your eyes closed, you can keep them open, whatever feels good for you. When we look out into the world in which we live today, especially in the Western world, it is quite extraordinary how many people live such similar lives. The eighth shadow of mediocrity, like all shadow frequencies, is founded upon a specific fear, and in this case, it is the fear of being different. The eighth shadow prevents individuals from rising out of the mass consciousness and exploring the real adventure of life. The true nature of individuality is rebellion, but rebellion is unsafe. So the mass consciousness of humanity chooses the illusion of security instead. The eighth shadow weaves a web across the world, and this web supports the planetary comfort zone. Only when life forces you to grow through some kind of crisis or the death of a loved one, for example, do you come to experience your true nature outside the borders of this comfort zone. In the Western world in particular, your individuality is imprinted very early in life. One of the issues addressed repeatedly throughout this book is the influence of modern education, especially in the years leading up to age of 7. Most educational systems encourage sameness rather than difference because difference threatens the system itself. In modern education, young children go through an accepted process of tests and examinations, the very nature of which is to regurgitate memorized information with little or no scope of spontaneous innovation. This indoctrination begins early in your childhood and lasts into your early 20s as you are cycled through the same system that shaped your parents and your parents' parents. By setting up a system where sameness is the rule, we have successfully turned individuals into outsiders and reactionaries. I'm going to pause there for a moment. This is the shadow of mediocrity. And the symptoms of this is apathy, chronic fatigue, depression, what a lot of native and indigenous ways and terms would call it soul sickness. And all of this is the exhaustion of having to wear a mask and having to fit in. Because if we remember and we go back to our childhood to think about all the ways in which we designed ourselves and created ourselves to fit in, to people please, to put our needs aside, to put our truth into the corner, to diminish our gifts. All of this is this eighth shadow in the gene keys of mediocrity playing out. And so we need to rebel. And it's not a rebellion just against the system, it's a rebellion within ourselves. A rebellion against the lower frequencies that keep us in these cages and keep us playing small. And this is the ultimate act of self-liberation. This is the ultimate act of freedom. So I'm going to continue here as we go into this and begin to explore what it's like to emerge from mediocrity into its gift of style. But first, we're going to explore mediocrity just a little bit more. Mediocrity is defined by others rather than by yourself, and mediocrity has two main functions. Firstly, it keeps you from thinking outside the box. Under the influence of this low frequency, you think like everyone else, look like everyone else, and more or less behave like everyone else. And you will do this based on what others may or may not think of you. The second function of mediocrity is to serve the machinery of society rather than evolution. In other words, you become a cog in the wheel of the systems established by man. And in doing so, you become a part of the background of life rather than a major player. Mediocrity prevents people from being heroes or heroines. Nowadays, most of us are simply content to dream about what we could have achieved in our lives. We may watch the films and movies of others and may even be deeply moved by them. But the eighth shadow prevents us from believing in ourselves enough to embody such a life. And the reason is fear. Fear is an endemic throughout the very infrastructure of our society. Those who've moved beyond this threshold of fear move in a world that seems incomprehensible to the mainstream culture. And that's what we're all here to do. We're here to be the living examples of what it means to live authentically, to be fully us. And so here we go into the gift of style, a rebel with a cause. To break out of the heavyweight frequency of the eighth shadow, you have to take an exciting leap of faith in yourself. The eighth gift catches people's attention because it brings something fresh into the world. The gift of style has little to do with our popular interpretation of this word, and it has more to do with following your own unique rebellious spirit out into the world. True style cannot be measured by materialistic trappings, nor can it be faked. It is the natural flowering of your individuality. To find your own style is to be yourself without concern about what others may think. Since it bypasses the mind, style cannot be imitated or preconceived, always emerging spontaneously and naturally. It also involves traveling along paths that involve risk, but only as societies defines risk. True style takes great joy in shattering the gray world of mediocrity that is considered the norm. This gift does not sit happily within society, although the pure and joy and freedom of expressing your true nature far outweighs any repercussions that may come with the territory. Individual uniqueness is something that our modern societies uphold and idolize, but in reality, we are afraid to have too many colorful individuals. Style is more than skin deep, it is the cutting edge of creation itself. Individuals manifesting this gift have surrendered themselves to a creative process that controls them rather than controlling it. Creativity can be a thankless business. Oftentimes, an individual is so ahead of her or his time that their uniqueness is not appreciated until after their death. However, this sense of expansive freedom that comes from letting in go into such a process is so fulfilling that success or failure is no longer a major driving force or consideration in their lives. Breathe that in, feel that, those words. This is the frequency of your soul speaking through you. A soul that wants to communicate, that wants to express out into the world, to paint a new canvas, a new masterpiece. But in order to do so, it has to ultimately transcend its definition of death. That this fear of death has been so ingrained within us. And in order to truly be yourself, we must move beyond and to look at death as just another state of living, as a transition. That if we were to die sharing our truth, we did a great thing for the world and we showed others what it means to truly be authentic. But the chances are you won't die. You will not die. In fact, you will live so fully and you will feel so incredibly expanded and free within yourself. Now, all of this takes time. All of this doesn't happen right away and overnight. All of this is a gradual process of honing our nervous system and the capacity that we can hold at any given moment. Because I can promise you one thing, I can promise you that if you start speaking your truth in any way, you will have the haters. Undoubtedly, you will have the haters. But there will be more people that love you for having the courage to stand up. And I'm going to share a short story here that many years ago, back in 2017, early on in my business journey, I was hosting an online summit. And in this summit, again, we had probably 7, 8, 9, 10,000 people join this summit. It was a very big online event. And I interviewed all these thought leaders, and it was a really wonderful experience. Yet, when I went to put it out there were a small percentage, 2, 3, 4% of haters that shared a lot of really intensely mean, hateful comments. And because I didn't have the capacity at that time to hold that energy, I completely collapsed and burned out. I shut down my voice, I shut down my gifts. And honestly, it took me years to recover from that experience. However, I am grateful that I had that experience because it showed me many things. It showed me, one, of course, my capacity, where I was at, and how much that really broke me, which was necessary for my evolution. And it showed me that at the end of the day, there is not one thing that I or anybody else could say that is going to please everybody. And there will always be people that doubt and hate. But the people that lift you up and support you based on what you say is going to be far greater than anything else of what perhaps some negative comments in the YouTube section or wherever can do to you. And when you become an emanation of this gift of style, of authenticity, you become a beacon. Your courage to be seen unconsciously gives others permission to take off their mask too, to strip it all away and say, here I am. transparent, vulnerable, and this is how we create a new world. This is how we create a new paradigm. And so I call forth all of you, change makers, trailblazers, rebels, pioneers, visionaries, those that have been locking away your gifts, your truth, your voice for far too long. No more. It is time to rise up, and we do it together. We rise together as one. And through that, we create, we design, we architect a completely new world. So I ask you now, drop below. What is one unique part of yourself that you've been hiding to make others comfortable? Put it in the comments. What have you been hiding to make others comfortable? I appreciate you sticking around for this message today, this transmission. Much more to come. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Helps me to get these messages out to more people. And of course, hit that like button. And other than that, signing off for the day. We'll talk to you soon.